During the 1960s, the civil rights movement gained popularity. Martin Luther King Jr., along with other African American rights activists, gained supporters around the world with their nonviolent petitions. On February 1, 1960, activists created a new method of peaceful rebellion. 4 African Americans traveled to a white-only lunch counter at Woolworth's store in Greensboro, North Carolina. When they asked for a cup of coffee, their service was refused as expected. In reaction to this rejection, the students sat at the counter patiently. Despite threats, the student waited to be served quietly. This was the start of a new civil rights movement, the sit-in movement. Everyone who participated in the sit-in movement had a strong purpose in mind, to create racial equality. The movement was simple. All you had to do was sit quietly waiting to be served. Many times participants would be scorned or threatened by customers. On a few occasions they were even pelted with food or ketchup. Whites who were deeply against racial equality would often try to provoke a fight which would never be responded to, since the purpose of the movement was not to retaliate but persevere. Even in the events of a physical attack, students would curl up into the ball and take the beating. When the local police came, they would arrest the students. While this would seem to remove the African Americans, another row of participants would walk in and take the vacated row of seats. People who participated in the sit-in movement believed that if the acts of violence were only on the white community, people would find their cause to be right and the violence wrong. By the end of the school year, over 1,500 demonstrators were arrested, but their activity brought huge results. Slowly, many restaurants began to abandon policies of segregation. April 1960, during a conference to discuss strategy on nonviolent protesting against segregation. Many Northern and Southern students collaborated together to form the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Northern students created another group named the Congress on Racial Equality, or CORE. This group also endorsed direct action. These groups were what organized the citizens who participated in future sit-ins and other such activities in white-only areas. The CORE activists had planned the first Freedom Ride in 1961. They did this in order to challenge laws forcing segregation in transportation. A multitude of buses were filled with black and white students as they rode through the South. The first of the Freedom Riders left for New Orleans from Washington, D.C. on May 1961. When arriving at bus stations, many of the participants were arrested. In Anniston, Alabama, an angry pro-segregation mob set the bus aflame and slashed its tires. The participants were forced to travel by plane in order to avoid these people. Robert Kennedy, the new Attorney General, ordered federal marshals to protect any future Freedom Riders. The Interstate Commerce Commission eventually banned segregation on interstate travel as a result of public pressure. The process was slow, but the barriers of segregation was slowly weakening.